turn now and get a little hot out there. It's that time. You know what that music means. Are you feeling sensuous about your waiver wires that you just want to gently pick up and caress and place them oh so gently onto your team? Are you tired of all those interceptions? Just once you want a great catch. Do you want to go and penetrate through and score that touchdown? That's easy. Not listening. Here he is, Mr. Fantasy, Franco.
I am here to bring you your fantasy.
That was like you walked out like from fireworks were being shot off, fog is going through, and you just opened up the door and went, so I'm here. How are you? I like it.
I have to play it casual. I don't want to overblow anybody's mind.
I appreciate that. We got a long season, so not until the very end do you really want to go out with a bang.
I mean, I go out with a bang every single time, but I like to draw it out a little bit.
Let's get into it, because this was a terrible fantasy week for the two of us. So terrible because we were excited last week and talked about it on air that we were finally going head-to-head in our fantasy league. And what an utter disaster managing on both of our parts. And start with what happened to your placement of your quarterback in Thursday Night Football.
Oh, man. I played the numbers, and I went the matchup, and I thought Brian Hoyer has been great so far. He has a good lineup. Josh Gordon's playing well, so I dropped my quarterback, put Brian Hoyer in because RG3 is out. And, of course, in the first quarter, it goes down, torn ACL, 2 points. And
then I didn't get the memo about Stephen Ridley not playing, so I played a running back that scored 0 points. And then to add insult to injury, the quarterback that I played, Alex Smith, scored, I think, 8 points, or was it 4? I forget in our league what the number was. But regardless of the actual number, it was terrible, because here I thought, oh, well, I'm only 2 points from the quarterback on Franco's team. I've got this. Meanwhile, who sat on my bench? Tony Romo. How many points? 50.
Yeah, 506 yards and 5 touchdowns later on your bench. And you're not alone in your mishap. Actually, if you take our 2 benches and combine them, you had Romo on your bench for about 50 points. I had Alshon Jeffrey for 140 yards, 2 touchdowns, about 35 points. And Pierre Thomas, 96 yards, 2 touchdowns, a bunch of receptions for 25 points. We basically would have beat each other with our bench players alone.
It was a sad time. I talked to you before the show, and I said that I didn't even have any enjoyment out of it by Sunday at maybe 1:30, 2 o'clock. I felt terrible about my life in fantasy, and we couldn't even enjoy this. But we play each other again, right?
We will play each other again, and then probably a third time in the playoffs. So
I'm excited. I mean, this one is a wash. I think it kind of deflated the rivalry a little bit. Not too much, because we could both commiserate, and now we're going to get our act together and hopefully get this back on track. So let's get back on track. Top performer. I know you got to mention quarterback Tony Romo, but who else did you have out there?
I mean, we already mentioned all 3 of them. If you were listening there, Brian, instead of gazing into Owen's eyes, but
listen, I'm trying to tee you up. Maybe you have other people I'm not aware of. But yes, you did catch me. I happened to gaze into Owen's eyes. You have not seen them yet. They're seductive.
I believe it. But actually, I have seen them. I was in the studio last year. But Peyton Manning, of course, and then the regular suspects. Running back was a down position this week. I think the next highest performer was Noshawn Moreno from Denver, leaving off such great names as Ray Rice and LaShawn McCoy. It's just been a rough year for running backs.
And what about biggest losers of the week? We have already named 2 giant quarterbacks that laid eggs, and they're giant losers. But who else was out there that was a big disappointment?
Even bigger than our quarterbacks, Cam Newton and Tom Brady, if you have a lead to count sacks, combined for 3 points and no touchdowns. And those are guys that were taken early on in drafts, like 2nd round, 3rd round. And I mean, Brady had the excuse of pouring rain, and I guess Cam Newton has the excuse that Ron Rivera is a terrible quarterback coach.
Well, speaking of Cam Newton, a lot of reports are coming out that this guy is possibly on his way to being done. Personally, I think that's a little bit too early. I think you're right. A lot of it has to do with coaching. But really, since his first two games, when he just blew up, when he did over 350 yards on both, he hasn't done much. And he's been on the losing end as far as his record goes. What do you think needs to happen? Is this a lost cause or just something because of the coaching?
He's far too talented for a lost cause. If you notice, they took away a lot of the designed run plays. In the two games that he had big stat lines, they had designed run plays of 7 and 8, whereas the games where he's been horrible, they haven't had any designed runs. So they need to stop trying to make a pocket passer, play to his strengths. I mean, it's a running league now, as far as quarterbacks go. We have read options. Cam Newton is a runner, and he's a big enough guy that he's not going to get hurt. They need to start playing to his strengths as opposed to making it something he isn't.
Well, let's go with some top wide receivers that are out there. Who'd you have?
This is kind of a sneaky one, but I would go with Greg Jennings. With the addition of Josh Freeman over in Minnesota, who has turned Mike Williams and Vincent Jackson into pretty good players, I think Jennings is a good pickup. It's kind of under the radar, and obviously Freeman's a big improvement over Ponder or Matt Castle.
Do you see Freeman overtaking that quarterback position sooner rather than later?
I think it's no doubt. Maybe not this week, but the next week. It's going to be before the end of the season, and I think that's a good reason to gamble on Greg Jennings.
And what about a top running back? As you said, running backs have not really been a major topic of discussion on the show for the first 5 weeks of the NFL season because they haven't been that many impactful players that can rival the quarterbacks and the wide receivers we've talked about. Who out there was a top running back for you this week, though?
I'm going to have to go with Andre Ellington again. We talked about him last week, but now he's actually eclipsed Mendenhall's touches. He's electric. He's almost Darren Sproles-like, which is not necessarily an every down back, but he's good enough to put up points every week. So I'd go Andre Ellington if you need some help.
Now, are these people that are out there on the waiver, or do you have some other players in mind that you are interested in picking up and having them take care of your team?
I mean, if we're going to the waiver wire, there's Keenan Allen at the Raiders. Eddie Royal proved to be Eddie Royal. It's kind of a letdown. And then the big news in fantasy is that Julio Jones is out for the year. So you have to look towards Harry Douglas off the waiver wire. And then even more so, you have to gamble and try to see if you can get Roddy White off of one of the owners that owns him. Obviously, Roddy White's been hurt the entire year. It's been kind of a letdown, but he's a bye week to get healthy. And now that Julio Jones is out of the picture, I think he gets to take his chance and try to buy low on him.
Anybody else out there? I mean, for me personally, this is my personal request for the evening. I'm terrible with running backs, and C.J. Spiller is one character in particular. Is this somebody that I should hang on to? Should I try to trade? What are your thoughts on all of that?
I think you saw the rebirth of C.J. Spiller a little bit this past week. He wasn't fantastic, but he was very effective. He did get away and score on a long run. I think that's going to start coming back. It's exactly the same pattern as last year. I think you hold on for a couple more weeks, and then if it's a couple more weeks it hasn't happened, then you sell 50 cents on the dollar, and you take it as a fancy loss. We all have them, but that's part of the game.
Let's take a look at some matchups that you have in this upcoming week. What are some key matchups that we should be targeting on?
There's only one matchup I want to talk about, and that's Denver versus the Jaguars.
Which is going in history in Vegas, I believe, as the largest point spread for an NFL team, an NFL game ever.
That's exactly true, 28 points. And imagine on fantasy the potential for this to turn into something disastrous.
Well, is this a sort of a trap game for fantasy? Because if you play Peyton Manning, and yes, he's going to bring out big numbers, and so will the wide receivers and running backs, at what point do they pull these guys and say, all right, well, this is getting embarrassing. Let's put in all of our backups. Is that something to consider?
I think the prediction is going to be about middle, third quarter, they're going to start putting backups in. But I think they're going to have points before they get pulled that you're worth starting them. Just be aware that you're not going to get a full game out of anybody.
Quickly before you go, I mentioned it at the top of the show. Condoleezza Rice being asked to participate in the selection committee for college football, championships. There's been criticism, surprisingly, from coaches and even some ESPN analysts that are making the argument that because she has not actually played football or managed football or done anything in football that she shouldn't be part of it. My feeling is that I think that's absolutely ridiculous to have someone of her caliber not participate because she's an incredibly intelligent woman, very knowledgeable about the game. Where do you land on this controversy?
I I lay on the side of college football has always been a boys' club, and now that somebody else is sticking their head in, they're not very comfortable with it. I mean, Condoleezza Rice was talking about her dream to be the NFL commissioner, and it was actually getting serious play. She knows football, and if nothing else, why not have a fresh set of eyes looking at the selection committee in the first place? I think she's far too intelligent with numbers and knows the sport and loves the sport to basically make fun of her, say she doesn't belong, is pretty much just sexist. It's actually kind of a letdown, and I think it's listening to broadcasters really regretting what they said as it gets played out a little more.
I want to thank Franco, as always. He is Mr. Fantasy. Fantasy came early today, kids. But that's all right. It happens sometimes. Thank you, Franco.
You're welcome, Brendan. And you're welcome, listeners.
All right. No, that's always fun to use that music.